Good morning, everyone. Well, when you get this, I'm recording this on the start of Passover. So when you get to watch this tomorrow, you've got one day you can tick off. It starts on the 22nd, Monday, and goes through April 30th. Technically, 8 days. In Jerusalem, it's 7 days. But they allow an extra day for those that are in other areas of the world so that they can get the word out. People complain that they didn't know it was happening because they're so far away. Back when the Pony Express was the only way to get messages around. So, tradition. So, 8 days starting today as I'm recording this. Okay, there's a couple of websites that you can go to if you want to get more information. I'm going to be covering a lot of the Bible side of this, but if you want to see the traditional side, they have a standard meal at the evening dinner tonight when it starts, but they're going to be eating traditional food for the Passover. When they were prepped about this, they told them what to do, but they said wait until somebody gives you the word before you go, because they had to do a lot of things. And for the Passover, they had to hide inside for a little while until they were told to come out again. So there's timing involved in all this stuff. If you want to go to Chabad.org, Chabad.org, I'll try to put it down at the bottom, is a Jewish website that has all the stuff on there. If you want to see specifically about the Passover, one of their linked pages is Passover.org, and you can find about it. Okay, so before we get into this, I've got a message just came in from my son. I'm going to go check and see how he's doing, and then I'll get right back to you. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. I was over there for lunch today and helping him get some of his stuff going, and he was having problems. I don't know what it is. With computers, they pretty much run, but the one item you've got that is indispensable but can go out on you is the mouse. I've been having trouble, as you've seen in my past videos, and his right mouse button stopped working. So I ordered him from Amazon a new mouse and had it same day delivered, because he's got his website now that he's posting to daily, like I'm doing, only he's doing gaming because that's what he wants to do. I'm doing this, which is what I want to do. So, in any case, it just arrived, the new mouse, so he would be able to broadcast tonight. So, good news. Okay. Passover is celebrated by Jews and Christians. I'm going to focus on the Jewish side of it in this video. I'll look at the Christian side. I know that Jesus was the Passover lamb, but that's for the next video. This is the Jewish side of it, so you can see what they're doing, what they're thinking. They were rescued. Now, if you remember back in history, Joseph was sold by his brothers and eventually ended up at Potiphar's house. Eventually that ended him up in jail, and then he could interpret the dreams of the Pharaoh, so Pharaoh brought him out and made him his number 2 guy. So that's how they basically got to Egypt. And he predicted 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. That saved the people of the state. The Pharaoh was very appreciative and basically said, okay, you obviously have a connection with God. You can do anything you want. Okay? Now, he knew to stay away from Pharaoh's wife, because that's what got him in trouble with Potiphar. He didn't have anything to do with Potiphar's wife, but she lied about it because he was there. So I'm sure he learned from that. Quickest side note, rabbit trail. Billy Graham never traveled with him and a woman together in a car or whatever. If there was a female with him, he had one more person. Male or female, it didn't matter, but you had a witness. So there could never be any hanky-panky, which he didn't want to do anyway, but somebody couldn't lie like Potiphar's wife and say he tried this, because there'd be a witness. Remember that. Okay, so Passover is celebrated by the Jews. Eventually his father and brother came because they needed food because there was a famine, and Joseph didn't identify himself. It had been a number of years. They didn't recognize him, and he may have, shaved his head with the hair down the side, the typical Pharaoh stuff, whatever he's not a Pharaoh, but whatever the dress was, he probably looked very Roman or very Egyptian as opposed to country. Okay, so the whole family came there, and then they just grew and took over. It's God's promise to Abraham. Okay, so the Jews celebrate this every year at this time. You can go look up what it talks about as far as when it celebrates it. It tries to line up with a certain date. They really hate the fact that Easter and Christian Passover is close to the same time. They don't like that at all, but that's the way it goes. So, first 2 nights of Passover, the first night in Israel, there's, again, that extra day, they have a Seder, which is a sacred meal. Get in with the Hebrew words there. After candles have been lit, which is typical on a evening before a Shabbat and an evening at the end of the day, starting this time frame, they light the candles. We enjoy a ritual-rich 15-step feast. Was written about when I went online to read about it. We're centered around the telling of the story of Exodus. The real message of Passover to them, to the Jews, is connection. Connect with your kids. Make sure they got the message so they can then connect it to their kids later on. Keep this tradition going. It's important. God saved the Jews from slavery. See, there was a lot of slaves around, not just in the United States. Nobody can claim the banner of being the only slave in the world. We're all slaves to God. It's not legal anymore, which is great. But don't be going back in time and reliving it as if it happened yesterday and we're all guilty, okay? Because we're not. Okay, so the Seder is a traditional Passover meal that includes reading. They got to drink 4 cups of wine. The wine may be diluted for kids, but there will be wine for the kids. It's tradition again. Remembering back in the time of Jesus, wine or alcohol in your water purified it from the bugs. So, and then they eat special food. There'll be singing of songs and other Passover traditions. Okay. As per the Bible commands that this be carried out. It is held after nightfall on the first night of Passover and the second night if you live outside of Israel. The anniversary of our nation's miraculous exodus, that's the title of the book, from Egyptian slavery more than 3,000 years ago. The Seder meal in 2024 will be celebrated on April 2nd, 23rd if you're outside the country, after nightfall. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to jump to Exodus 11:1, and we're going to get it right from the horse's mouth. We're going to get the Bible description of what all this is all about. Okay? The tie-in to Jesus is enormous, but they didn't have Jesus 3,000 years ago. So they needed a way to purify themselves. They needed a way to get away from their captives, and God provided it. So, Exodus 11:1, and the Lord said to Moses, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. They'd already had a series of plagues. Locusts and frogs and water turning to blood. Some of these things are coming back again in these end times. Afterwards, he will let you go from here, and when he lets you go, he will surely drive you out of here altogether. So what they're going to do is they're going to convince them to leave, and when they leave, the Jews are going to take with them the riches of the families there. Pharaoh's the only one that had his heart hardened. The families there really didn't mind the Jews. They were good slave owners, if you will. But when they worked for the Pharaoh, some people say, well, the Jews built the pyramids. Conjecture. We don't know. There's no real proof that they did. We don't know how the pyramids were built. We have no idea how they could carry a 20-ton slab of granite from a quarry 500 miles away. We have no idea. Give the old-time people credit for being smart with their current set of knowledge. They got the same brains back then as that we do today. They may have some advancements and stuff, but most of it's medical, allowing us to live healthier lives than they did back then. But they were smart. Okay. 11:2. Speak now in the hearing of the people, and let every man ask from his neighbor and every woman from her neighbor articles of silver and articles of gold. They weren't leaving empty-handed. Now, silver and gold stored up riches on earth. They used that silver and gold to make the golden calf later on. Good intentions don't work with Satan and his ideas. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt. He'd been living there, and he had done all kinds of things for him. He grew up there. He knew the language. He had to flee when he was younger because he killed an Egyptian, but God banished him for 40 years. He comes back with his family. Let my people go. Then Moses said in 4, Thus saith the Lord, about midnight I will go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sits on the throne, even to the firstborn of the female servant who was behind the handmill, firstborn of everyone, and all the firstborn of all the animals. How did God do this? I don't know. He's God. He can do whatever he wants. And in verse 6, there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as was not like before, nor shall there be again. They won't have this problem ever again. Not in Egypt. Bethlehem's going to experience the same thing when Jesus comes along, when they kill the babies. But against none of the children of Israel shall a dog move its tongue. You know how dogs are. You walk in front of them and they bark. They're not your dog. They're being protective. It's their instinct. Not a dog shall bark against a man or a beast, that you may know that the Lord does make a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Verse 8, And all these your servants shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, Get out, all the people who follow you. After that I will go out. And then he went out from Pharaoh in great anger. Pharaoh was not happy. He's supposed to be a god in the eyes of people. He's not. Moses' God is more powerful. But the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh will not heed you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. So Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. Okay, now we're in chapter 12. Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, so this is what's going on. Moses is there trying to get him to let people go, and they won't let him go. So now we're going to get to the Passover. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. This is when the year starts. It's at the right time of year, springtime. Speak to all your congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. So everybody's covered with one lamb. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house according to the number of the persons. According to each man's need, you shall make count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish. Jesus is the Lamb of God. They don't know who he is yet. A male of the first year. The shepherds on the hill were raising sheep for sacrificing in the temple when the shepherds appeared to him. The connection's amazing. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight, just as it's starting to get dark. And they should take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel. So, boom, boom. If you look at the letter Bet, that's what it looks like. Two doorposts and a top. On the houses where they eat in. This is where they eat. Then they shall eat the flesh on the night, roasted in a fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs shall they eat. That's the meal for the Passover for modern-day Jews. If they can have lamb, fine. They're not going to have pork. Lamb or goat, they can have that. Bitter herbs and unleavened bread. Unleavened bread is without yeast. It's because they didn't have time to let it rise. But roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its entrails. Basically just throw the whole thing on. And you shall eat none of it shall remain until morning, and what remains of it till morning you shall burn with the fire. With a belt on your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, so you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land, in verse 12, for I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. He's making it very clear. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. Scientifically, there's probably a reason for this. We have no idea because the Bible doesn't say. It's probably some kind of a disease-carrying insect. He said plague. The plague was carried by fleas, which were carried on rats, the bubonic plague. So it's possible there could have been fleas. They get to the doorpost covered in blood. They stop and they chow down. They're too full and fat, or they gorge themselves and die. I don't know. We don't know. God made the arrangement. And so this day shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting ordinance. It's never going away. That's why we're still celebrating it 2,000 years later. Too bad too many people don't really know the full meaning of all this. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the first day you shall remove the leaven from your houses. Just get rid of it so you can't be tempted to use it. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. Really got the geese flying by. This is coming from God. Do it the way I tell you to do it. This isn't you have a choice. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation, a gathering, And on the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation for you. No manner of work shall be done on those days, but that which everyone must eat, that only may be prepared by you. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this same day I shall have brought forth your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as an everlasting ordinance. And it just goes on. There's more details about the days. Unleavened bread, I guess I went too far. That was the next holiday. Pretty much the same thing. Another feast. This is in the fall, though. Yeah, so you can stop at 16. I went on too far to 17. All these things are all defined for the people going forward in time. So there's no excuse. They've got it written down. And we've found enough evidence that the Bible hasn't changed over the hundreds and thousands of years that they've been around with the Bible in some form of written form, oral form before that. It hasn't changed. The Dead Sea Scrolls go back a long ways. Okay, so this is what they're doing. They're celebrating this. They have the message. The law is written that they have to comply with this. So Jesus came and fulfilled this law. He became the unblemished lamb sacrificed. Blood had to be spilt. He did everything. This was to establish this covenant with the people. Jesus has done the same thing with his new covenant in the Last Supper. That's where his covenant is. You eat the bread, my body, you drink the blood. He carried out this on Passover. All right. There's a lot more stuff going on. Chapter 12 has a lot of the stuff in there if you want to continue reading. I'm going to go ahead and change to one New Testament verse, 1 Corinthians 5:7. Therefore purge out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, since you truly are unleavened. For indeed Christ our Passover was sacrificed for us. So there's the tie-in to the New Testament, in case you had doubts. There's more than that. We're going to cover that side when we look at what Jesus did. Now, I'm working 2 days this week, not tomorrow, but the next 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. So I might have a very short video for those 2 days. I'm trying to recover on my YouTube page from the filtering. It ran 2 weeks this time and normally runs 1. They're trying to destroy my channel again, so I need your help. Like and share my videos, because that beats their algorithm. If you don't do anything, they win. Same thing with God's Word. If you don't do anything, Satan wins. You've got to get the word out and help others to get the word out. I watch a number of channels throughout the week, the people I like to listen to, because I need to be fed too. And I like and I share their videos. Sometimes I don't have time to watch their videos, but I will go in and like and share the video, even if I don't have time at that moment to watch it. I'll get to it later if I can, but if I miss it, I've at least liked and shared. That's the least you can do. If you want, you can also use the thanks button. That helps YouTube also to know that you like what I'm doing. You can contribute $1 or $2. It's not a big deal. If you want to do more, PayPal would be better. And I have a Patreon account that if you want to be a sustaining member, you can go there. Unfortunately, it's only me, so it's really there just for your long-term donations. I don't have the time in doing a daily video to do another video for Patreon, and I apologize for that. If I were to grow big enough to get some help, then maybe we could do it. But right now, you've got me, and I'm a one-arm paper hanger as it is. Okay. Pray for this ministry. We always need it. If you have prayer requests, drop them in the comments down below. I always pray for them, and we usually get a few people from the channel to also agree to pray. That's how we get through this time. Continue to prep. And I meet you in the clouds. God bless.